Your host hasn't seen everything in sports, but sometimes he acts like it, and his guests probably have. Now, the host of Scorecard Scribblings, your sports guy, Brent Weber.
Well, hello, everybody. Stuck at home or in your car or maybe you're camping, wherever you're listening to Scorecard Scribblings, we appreciate you joining us tonight. It is another coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic edition, and we're all living and learning how to do it this way. The toughest thing remains living without our sports, by all accounts. One sport that got hit hard, if you're an NHL fan, the National Hockey League. If you're a fan of Canadian hockey, they live it, they breathe it, and there was an awful lot more finish to what they experience every year. So yes, we may be based here in the largely hockeyless Shasta County area, where only up in the city of Mount Shasta do they actually have hockey. Kind of a problem with that. You got to go down to San Jose or over the hills to Vegas to get some hockey. But no, there is plenty of hockey in the Pacific Northwest, and it's Canadian hockey. That's right, the Canadian Hockey League. So tonight I want to talk to one of my friends who has forged a career as a hockey play-by-play voice, and he is a Southern California dude. That in itself should tell you that, hey, if you dream it, you can do it. Let's hear a little bit of his play-by-play call. Jared?
Skates over left wing. Silvertips zone, twisting off of Fonstad, centering in 10th. Here's Bjorklund, shoots, save made by Kirky, rebound in front, loose puck, tips control. Kindop a chip and chase, here come the Silvertips. For the win, right side, Kindop, into the zone, pulls up, shoots, score! Bryce Kindop bringing down the house, and what a way to end it! His second goal of the game, 2:08 remaining in overtime. How sweet it is! The Silvertips win 4-3.
That is the voice of Mike Benton, who is the Director of Broadcasting and Public Relations for the Everett, Washington Silvertips. He's been there since 2015 in a hockey broadcasting career that I think just shows how much you love the game. Mike Benton, thanks for joining us. It's almost, it's hockey season pretty much about 9 months out of the year, maybe 10 in Washington and lands north, right?
Absolutely, Brent. Yeah, first, thank you for very much having me on with you here this evening. It is a treat to talk with you once again. And you play back that call, it just makes me thirsty even more to finally get back at it. But I know that this is tough as far as the times that we're in, and patience is required. And once we finally get back to it, it's going to feel awfully sweet.
Well, you also have a new podcast and want people to write this one down, check it out, Voices Up Close, because it's similar to what I love to do. You're talking to people, many of them in the business, I think, and voices of sport. And your second one, I know, was a pretty sweet special one for you, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much for mentioning that. It was a project that I began to brainstorm about roughly a month and a half ago, and I mean, there are plenty of podcasts that you can utilize if you're looking to get into this line of work, or even if you're just looking to be entertained by the familiar voice that you dialed up from your youth, or even, today. So I think the challenge for me, and this was something that I had been wanting to do for quite a while. A good friend of mine, Donnie Barnes, who's AAA baseball right now, used to broadcast the minor league team in the California League, the Visalia Rawhide. He does this in, or has done it in blog form, but, I thought, what if we could take a topic like this, content like this, and bring it to life and, put a brand new twist on it. The challenge for me to make this happen was to make it unique. So I thought, if you're trying to put the voice front and center for a certain team, and if you're listening to this podcast, what are you looking for as far as appointment listening for about roughly anywhere between a half an hour to a little over an hour? And I think for me the challenge was to try to find a way to put a different spin on it, and I think really get up close and personal with our subject matter, and whether you might be a fan, who's been following a certain team for about 5, 10, maybe even 15, 20 years plus, or if you're fresh out of college or still in college and are looking to find a way to brush up on the details that help make you successful, or even if you're looking for just a quick refresher and you've been doing this for quite a while, our goal each and every podcast is to deliver content that make you reach those goals, either from an entertainment side or whether it might be from an educational side. So when it comes to those details, and I had Bob Miller on getting to this, there's almost no one like Bob, who is, number one, so classy, and number two, willing to open up and share on any topic here. And I think what we really accomplished, getting Bob Miller on about just a few days ago and finally getting this up and running yesterday, was, number one, really reveal entertaining stories that maybe you heard, maybe yet that you even haven't heard before during his 44 years behind the mic with the Los Angeles Kings.
Wow.
And even getting into his background with preparation, he is such he is such a dedicated individual when it comes to work ethic and his craft behind the mic. Every game he was thoroughly prepared and thoroughly detailed. And what he was able to do with us later on in our podcast was open up as far as a few secrets with what helped him be successful and the core values that were behind him that helped him become a successful broadcaster and eventually reach the Hockey Hall of Fame. So certainly, Brent, it was time well spent, and it'll be a podcast that I will never, ever forget.
Yeah, it's kind of, now you got to figure out a way to not go downhill from there. Interviewing, I know a guy who was your hero. I can't believe Bob Miller's 81. He's, of course, not picking on Bob, but he's had 81-year-old hair for a long time. So he's just such a young-looking 81-year-old, and his voice really is one of those 2 or 3 for North American hockey fans, and certainly all West Coast hockey fans. You would know him. If you don't know him from the national broadcasts, of course, he was the guy there with the Kings after Jiggs McDonald left to take on the Flames job, which was the team I grew up listening to as a child. And Bob Miller's was there ever since, and his voice is truly one of the 2 or 3 in North American hockey that I think is known by many.
He's always been sharp, and he still sounds sharp to this day, Brent. I'm still convinced that if you were to take him and put him behind the mic here, even for a game, he wouldn't miss a beat. I think, number one, because of the abilities that he has and how hard he's worked at it, but also, number two, he still has a very fresh set of pipes that can really deliver a knockout broadcast each and every night. Now, he did mention, during the podcast that, through all the mountains that he climbed for 44 years, that his lovely wife, Judy, mentioned to him now at this day and age. She said, "You know what? It's awfully nice waking up in the morning and having you right by my side here." So Bob, paraphrasing this, he really had a lot of fun delivering a lot of moments that Kings fans and other hockey fans will never, ever forget. But, he's focused now on, being a family man and still attends games throughout the entire year with the Kings as team ambassador. And quite frankly, now it's time to relax for him, and certainly he is much more than earned it here, and it's very, very well deserved.
Well, we'll let folks download that podcast after they listen to this. We're talking, though, to a guy that can tell you what it's like to try to be a family man and develop a career in the world of play-by-play sports. And hockey's probably even more challenging for a Southern California boy. Mike Benton, my guest, he is the director of broadcasting and PR for the Everett Silvertips of the Canadian Hockey League's Western Hockey League. And we'll talk about that experience, having been there, the smaller places that he's been, and how he's kept it going, and see if you've got any tips for those people who love hockey that want to stay close to it. But we'll we'll keep tuned in with Mike Benton here this hour. And I want to thank all of you, by the way, who have downloaded the show. If you do not hear the broadcast live, we do it out of the KCNR studio. I'm actually obviously in my Sunset Room studio at home in Shasta County. Mike's at his home. I guess you're in Washington, right?
I am just about 25 minutes north of Seattle, a town called Everett. So not too far away here from a lot of bustle, but a lot of that bustle is still staying indoors right now.
Yep, Everett, Washington, beautiful, beautiful city, and there's some great sports and great stories there over the years. But as we're saying, I want to thank those of you who found Scorecard Scribblings podcast as well. So if you miss one of these shows or you'd like to hear one of my past shows that we originally broadcast on KCNR, you can download the podcast Scorecard Scribblings. Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will talk more with Mike Benton about his experience, about calling hockey in Canada's top junior league, and what it takes to get there, and maybe to that next step. You are listening to Scorecard Scribblings. Back in just a sec.
Long stretch pass right wing for Dewar, and across the line of the right circle. Now cuts into the slot. Wait, shoot, score! And looking off for Knack, knocked away. Portland wheels the back right side of Manick, opting for a change. Tip taken away, Wiley. Breakaway pass, Ty Cole. Moving in, forehand, score! Ty Cole, right place, right time. Fresh out of the box. Took the long bomb, feed by Wyatt Wiley. Tips control, and Wiley ahead to center right for Gonsalves. Possible 3-on-2, shorthanded. Gonsalves into the zone to Bostad to the slot. He scores! Get Gianni Fairbrother back out.
Well, and I guess we could go on and listen to Mike Benton. It is beautiful to hear your voice, young man, the voice of the Everett Silvertips since 2015. And Mike joins us from Everett, Washington, where he is new podcast, Voices Up Close, which I recommend to anybody interested in broadcasting or particularly trying to get a better feel for that side of things. It's something that I try to do here as well when I'm not talking to athletes or previewing games. Mike joins us now. Mike, because I had written that book, Scorecard Scribblings, the sports guy, Scorecard Scribblings, which is where the name of this show came from. And there is something, that's cool about trying to give back. I remember when you were a kid, and now you have your wife, Amy, have Lucas and Liam, and you're no longer, hopefully, having to travel to some really super weird places, but you've worked hard enough over the years to get to a place where you're a part of a Western Hockey League team that you found a home, and you've been able to, keep your family through it all and build a family, and that's so important and so difficult for so many people who want to get into play-by-play because you have to make so many sacrifices as a young person.
Well, Brett, you hit the nail on the head, and I go back to, the book that you penned a while back, which, has this show's namesake. It's still a fantastic read, for anybody who wants to pick up a copy and is looking for either, a good Bible about a step-by-step process of getting into this line of work or just even a refresher course. It's phenomenal. But one of the passages that I remember, from that book, not just on work ethic, not just on finding your breaks, but also, the topic of family. Obviously, the phrase family first is so important to any walk of life. This is also a very, very demanding line of work that we're in. The hours certainly will tell you that, Brent. You've certainly understood that from, your time doing this for many, many years. I even go back to one of the funniest things that Bob Miller ever told me about his marriage with Judy, just kind of joking about it, where I was on the phone with him one time and we were talking about, trying to balance life and work, and Bob said, yeah, I grew up back in an era where, in the 1970s when I first began working for the Kings, no cell phones, your only way of staying in touch was usually by the pay phone or the phone of the hotel, and So my wife, Judy, often, jokes, and I often joke that we've been married for about roughly 30-plus years and been together for about roughly 18. So it's a lot of long hours that you're certainly enduring, a lot of time away that you're also spending on the road and away from your loved ones, whereas it demands you to find ways to make it work, if you can pardon the cliche. And I think the advantage that we're living in now in this day and age is that you're able to use technology to benefit the time spent with your family. For instance, my wife really values quality time, but quality time can really be in any shape or form, not just, you two sitting on the couch and, popping in a Disney movie and watching it with the kids on Netflix or, Disney Plus. At this day and age, it can even, be from, for instance, we use bus travel a lot in the Western Hockey League. So being that, you have a little bit more at ease restrictions with your phone than, say, versus airplane mode on an airplane, we often keep our phones nearby because as long as we have earbuds, then just pop the earbuds in, and if you have a Wi-Fi connection and you have enough of a good enough reception, you can easily phone your family, fire up FaceTime, and have that instantaneous connection that keeps you two together and keeps the family strong. And I see our head coach taking advantage of it. I see our staff of the bus taking advantage of it. I know that our players are certainly up with that, with trying to make sure they're in touch, with family members and loved ones as well. So, the ability, and even in fact, I even go to the lanes now where wherever I, go to different venues in the Western Hockey League, and my two boys, Lucas and Liam, ages 5 and 2, are now dialed into hockey enough where, they can be easily fascinated by the look of a hockey rink, by certain elements that go inside of it. So I got this here from a tip of a colleague of mine in the National Hockey League. He takes us even further here, but I've begun now actually taking video tours of the rink and moving the phone along with video and showing the levels of the rink from different areas, even from all the way at ice level to all the way up into the booth. And I transmit those back to Amy via text message and, have her show our boys whenever available. And back when Lucas was born 5 years ago, I would usually even try to read his favorite book, but record it with a voice memo message. Send that to Amy, and when she would rock him to sleep, she would play that right back for him. So he always heard the sound of my voice, whether it might be I'm in the middle of a game or whether I might be in the middle of airline travel. So when it comes to bedtime, there's always a sense of intimacy that we can maintain in our family, and that's what technology does for us now these days. And I really encourage anyone who is just getting their foot in the water here with this business. If you're looking to start a family, it is difficult, but it is possible. And there are ways that you can utilize creativity to keep that bond strong and make it even stronger.
We're talking to Mike Benton. His podcast is Voices Up Close. Of course, he has his website, Benton Hockey, and he is the director of broadcasting, the play-by-play voice of the Everett Silvertips since 2015 in the Western Hockey League. Mike, you're talking a little bit about the journey because I would say things started kind of normal for you. I mean, you were a Southern California kid. You're getting your reps wherever you could get them. You did what I did, and I know this is where I first caught wind of you. You were at Azusa Pacific, and you worked for that great radio station there, as I recall. And then once you got a chance to do it, when I say the hardest part about play-by-play sometimes is you just got to convince somebody to let you do it. You did Stockton Thunder, and I can only imagine the travel, the sacrifices. I can only imagine the AM, PM burrito stops on the Stockton Thunder and Alaska Aces years of doing hockey. Your memories of cutting your teeth, learning at those levels, and, would you be where you are today if not for that experience you gained then?
Yeah, and I think I learned some hard lessons about money management when it came to making those AM, PM burrito stops for an acceptable I think the only difference was I was usually the kind where I would just try to skip breakfast out the door and then try to, stop at the AM PM for one of those big 100 protein bars. And then I figured, why am I spending $3 a bar here? Oh, wait, I see. There's almost no more money in my account. I should probably kind of, get my act together here with my finances. So that was a little bit of a hard lesson learned. But you know what? I think bottom line in what you're getting down to with this, and I think, again, you nailed it. When you're first beginning in this line of work, it's obviously a business where you're not exactly, working for a top stockbroker. You're not exactly making good lawyer pay or good doctor pay. So, what you have to do, obviously, is, understand that there will be financial sacrifices being made to try to carve a career out of this, and try to find a way to live within your means if that makes sense. One of the greatest shows that I've seen maybe in the last year and a half that I really wish I would have had access back to then, maybe when I was first beginning about 15 years ago. Have you ever watched that show with a lady by the name of Marie Kondo, and it's a minimalist show?
I don't think I have
heard of it. Where?
Oh yeah, I can't think of the name of it, but yes.
Exactly, yeah, and the whole purpose is minimalism, where if you go around, you're a place of living, and you examine the things that you need versus maybe the things that you want. You're able to downsize and find the joy of the things that you really only need. And for me, growing up in my early to mid 20s, fresh out of college, you feel like that you have the whole world beneath you. You're right high, and then all of a sudden, when it comes to spending maybe the things that you want to spend money on, with that you're not exactly making the largest paycheck in the entire world. It teaches you a really hard lesson, and that's what I would really encourage anybody to consider when they first begin breaking into this business, is that it's not a very high-paying business. It is extremely competitive to get into. Now, if you put the work ethic in, you put the sweat equity in, and if you're nice to people, you flash your smile, you're genuine with them, they'll have your back and they'll help you advance. And with that advancement come opportunities, and also with that maybe comes a little bit of a deeper bank account. But when you're first beginning, you're obviously trying to live within your means, and you don't have much of a margin for error. So yeah, you obviously will have a lot of top ramen nights or macaroni and cheese nights, or if you can even break the bank, one of those fun burritos over at AM PM. But I would certainly encourage anyone to take a look at that and examine how do you live within your means. And even a great book I recently read called Financial Peace gives you, I think, a terrific roadmap here to be able to live within your means, no matter what kind of tax bracket that you're in. And that's recently a book that my wife and I have just picked up, and I've been doing this for years now. But if I could go back and give my younger self a copy, that would be the first thing I would pass along. And a couple of great resources here to, I think, appropriately wage the battle of maybe not so much income coming in, but find a way to make some joy out of it, and really, I think, accelerate your life along with the pursuits that you're putting in here with this career.
That's great advice, because one of the big things is sometimes with our energy as a young person, we think, well, we'll just work more, make more money, do other things, and then you forget you don't have that balance, and you've lost a lot of time. My guest is Mike Benton tonight on Scorecard Scribblings. By the way, Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. I had to Google it because I couldn't remember her name, the Netflix show. That is a lot of fun. Mike Benton is our guest. I want to talk about hockey and the state of hockey. And, we know it's great up north, state of hockey in the United States, and his little corner of the pro hockey universe. We'll talk to Mike about that and more as we continue on Scorecard Scribbling. Stay with us.
For Spokane, Ty Smith leads the charge. The center ice head man Zumak right wing and crunched against the boards right side by Wyatt.
And I guess that was it. Crushed it. I'd love it. My guest tonight, Mike Benton. We're getting a little taste of some of his calls in his play-by-play hockey career. He is the director of broadcasting for the Everett Silvertips. We were just talking during the break about that we do these Colt 45s games. And yes, the Medford Rogues, a summer collegiate team, they have played in the same summer collegiate league. The problem is those leagues are pretty fluid. And the Great Western League folded last year. I mean, all the leagues folded this year as far as I know. Of course, we were bummed to find out that, they have to cancel this year's broadcasts. But we were asking that because you're familiar with Medford, right?
Very much, yeah. Matter of fact, the Everett Silvertips, who I've worked for now for 5 years, are run by a parent company called Consolidated Sports Holdings, and they're based out of Medicine Hat, Alberta. But the man at the top is Mr. Bill Yule, who's also our team owner. But under CSH, they run or have run several teams and other sports properties, and among those were 2 Summerwood collegiate bad teams, and one of them was the Medford Rogues. So, of course, as they say, Brent, the hockey world or the sports world is a small world.
Yes, indeed. And that's the fun part about it. The world of professional hockey, because now you grew up, you were, born, and you were born of, you got to see and feel the Gretzky thing and how it changed hockey, and hockey became more of an American sport. When I was a kid, it was expansion, contraction. I grew up as a Flames fan in Atlanta, and there was much money to be made by Mr. Cousins by moving that team to Calgary. Hockey in other parts of the United States, it just hasn't made its place permanent where perhaps it should be. But you, as a Southern California guy, you're all in. You're ice in the veins. If you will go on a road trip to Prince George, happily, although I think that was probably a tough trip this year, hockey is alive and well in the Western Hockey League. Tell us about the WHL, and I know that's a big question, a big statement, but for those who don't understand kind of the entire junior hockey world of Canadian hockey, it's another world, and it's a big, huge sports world.
An absolutely fascinating league to be a part of and watch night after night, Brent. I would really compare it to, if you want to look at it this way, with the age range at the top end of it, NCAA Division I basketball or football. The difference here is that age range is pushed back a little bit, and you're typically seeing players between the ages of 16 to 20 years of age play in this league. The one thing, though, about this league, they are typically the best 16 to 20-year-olds in the entire world.
Right.
Usually we're seeing about a good chunk of players, every year not only make the National Hockey League, but also become stars in the NHL. A couple of players that come to mind for me immediately off the bat were those who I watched from maybe 10 nights a year to about over 70 nights a year, from Carter Hart with us, who was with me for 3 years and now is the number one guy in net for the Philadelphia Flyers, to Matt Barzell, who's not just maybe a top line forward, but may be the best player on the New York Islanders and has already made the NHL All-Star game and is among the group right now with players such as Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, and more, who are looking to carry the torch here for the next generation in this league, along with guys like Carter Hart. And the fun part of this is when players are selected in the NHL draft, and they're usually 18 years of age when this happens, there's still a good chance that they come back for their 19-year-old season, and it's like, man, look out, because they're maybe, a couple of inches taller or about 10 pounds heavier, or maybe even probably, more like 4 or 5 notches of a shot in the arm with confidence because of, where they've been selected in the NHL draft, and it's a group of players that I've never had a chance before to call in my career before this stop. There may be no other group of players like this, that I'll get a chance to call maybe, in my career. And, there are certain advantages to what you may be able to see at different levels of hockey. But when it comes to the top-end players in the Western Hockey League, if they're worth their salt at about 18 years of age as far as potential superstardom, they're maybe getting, I would say, 10 games in the American Hockey League, 10 to 15, not even sniffing the ECHL, which, by now has been branded for years as, the Premier AA Hockey League, like in baseball, if you want to use the minor league tier with that. But they're originally going right from this level, some of the biggest superstars from here all the way to the NHL at just 18 or 19 years of age. And they're an absolute treat to watch. So, for me, it's almost kind of like getting a chance to be behind the mic, say, for the Washington Huskies in football, or, UCLA or Stanford or Cal. You're technically in the same, venue and playing field, if that makes sense, with amateur athletes, and that's what they're, classified as, but they're the best in the entire world, and, they're the ones who are already making headlines and are going to make bigger headlines when they, are fully grown and into the NHL for years to come. So it's an absolute treat to get a chance to go to the rink every night and think, what will Carter Hart do? What could we see from Matt Barzal to, even players like Bowen Byram of the Vancouver Giants, who was picked 4th overall in the NHL draft by the Colorado Avalanche, even Kirby Dach, who was with the Saskatoon Blades for about 2 years plus, and this year made the Chicago Blackhawks at 18 years of age, and is all of a sudden now getting play minutes with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves. So an absolute treat here to get a chance to call these players each and every night, and that's one of the things that I look forward to working in this league here.
4 divisions. You are broadcasting in the U.S. division, which it makes it very, very unique because this is one of the Canadian Hockey League leagues. So you have 5 teams, as I understand it, in Oregon and Washington. And tell us a little bit about how that works. And then, obviously, it keeps travel not too bad, right?
Well, that was one of the benefits when I originally was up for this job, and my boss had me on the phone for about a good half an hour in my job interview, and he said, one of the benefits of you coming to Everett here is that you're maybe in a hotel for probably only 21 nights out of the entire year, and, more often than not, you're out of the booth and right back at home at 10 o'clock, giving your wife a goodnight kiss or tucking your little one into bed. And so, without a doubt, that was one of the major selling points for me for taking this job. And, it's really it's been as good as any job as I've had in my career. But, to the Western Hockey League and how the U.S. division dynamic fits, and it's primarily a league based in Canada. The league offices are based in Calgary, Alberta, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And typically it's been a league that has been marketed for player recruitment, for players who eventually become of age, to those who are in Canada. Now, we have seen, of course, with the game growing over the years, that the appetite for playing has increased in the United States, and with that, more attention has become focused on helping those teams grow. And we're seeing the NHL come in about another over a little over a year here in Seattle, but the game has had very respectable roots here in this region for quite some time. The Portland Winterhawks have, if you go ahead and Google it, have graduated countless players, not just guys, who have reached the NHL, but have become NHL superstars. The Everett Silvertips are getting closer here to 2 decades and are starting to churn out what looks like an NHL player basically every year. The Seattle Thunderbirds, same level and same length as Portland. They've been doing this for, a little over 4 years. The Tri-City Americans, who play to more of a smaller crowd in a little more south of us in the state, in a town called Kennewick, but have been churning out talent for over 30 years, the Spokane Chiefs on top of that. So there's been some terrific talent that have passed through the U.S. division. And while there aren't as many teams here in this side of the border than, say, versus Canada, there's a major goal that this league sets out, and it's player development. And, with that, once you find the players that you can place on these teams, you then can turn the attention here to helping dial up the entertainment product. And, virtually every team here in this division does it, very, very well. The Silvertips draw about nearly 6,000 fans a game. If you were to put that, say, in the ECHL, that would be ranked third in the entire league. In the American Hockey League, kind of the AAA of the NHL, if that makes sense, they'd be in the upper half right now of the attendance bracket. Spokane's also up there with us. Portland draws very, very well. Seattle plays in a smaller building, but packs it out a lot, and they have loud fans, which really, I think, between where they play in a town called Kent, Washington, and here really validates the NHL's impending arrival, in 2021. So it really is a great league to be a part of here. And, as far as travel is concerned, just getting to that very quickly, Brent, just right back to the whole thing. More often than not, we're on the bus and we're either back home the very same night or we're back home the very next night. And only one time, do we have to, jump in as far as really deep travel. And, tell the wife and kids or any other loved ones, say, I'll see you in about 2 weeks. And that's when we usually go to the outer reaches in the East Division into Saskatchewan and Manitoba, or even this past year further north and into places like Calgary and Edmonton. So really a great fun league to be in, and based on the way that it's set up, a ton of success here as well, too.
Mike Benton is our guest. We'll be back with a final segment here on Scorecard Scribblings with the play-by-play voice of the Everett Silvertips. We'll find out a little bit more about the world of hockey broadcasting when we return.
Wheels it back right side of Manick, opting for a change. Tip taken away, Wiley. Breakaway pass, Ty Cole. Moving in, forehand, score!
That's the voice of Mike Benton calling the play-by-play hockey of the Everett Silvertips of the Western Hockey League and the Canadian Hockey League, and he joins us tonight. Mike has really worked very hard to get where he is, and all of us doing. Mike, as we look at the level of during the outage and during this very difficult time during COVID-19, I've been really impressed, and I brought this up with some other people in other shows. I've been really impressed with the way a sector of athletes in every sport have utilized social media and even the sports leagues themselves, and you're doing some of this, to just kind of personalize themselves and to their fans. So the real hardcore fan can watch or listen or see their favorite guy or gal, depending on the sport, online somewhere during all this time, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, Brent, certainly. And I think at this day and age, I think the way that we can find some reason here to feel a sense of normalcy even when there are games being played is utilize the power of social media to continue a conversation and, try to find a way to, take our mind off of this and, coronavirus news that we all sometimes just, need a break from. Whereas, it's often said that sports is the toy department of life, and we tend to turn to the sports page or, a sporting event on television to take our mind off of things, pressures and anxiety. There are no games right now, so how else can, we do that? And, I thought a great way to try to at least continue that conversation for me when I'm off air right now is the side project of our podcast that I just launched and that we talked about earlier here in this show. But also, I really kind of sat in bed one night before I went to sleep and thought, if I'm going to talk to somebody, when I come out of this with all of us and we finally get back to normal here once, COVID-19 dissipates and we can finally get back to our routines in some shape or form, how how was I able to make a contribution here in society? And I thought, really no greater way here than to maybe, I think, use my skill sets, that God has helped me, with and refine me, and also bring in other friends as well who, share similar traits in this line of work. So what I actually did was, with a group of people here in the Puget Sound area, Seattle Sportscasters, we actually launched a project called Voices of the Puget Sound. What we've done is that we've jumped on the website Cameo.com, and usually it's reserved for a lot of movie stars, television stars, other celebrities as well. But I took a cue from a good friend of mine, John Walton, who is behind the mics on radio for the Washington Capitals, and he gathered several Washington, D.C. area sportscasters. Another friend of mine in the New York area, Brendan Burke, did this as well, and they have been trying to help fundraise throughout that entire region for different COVID-19 relief efforts. In John Walton's case, he helps the money gained feed local food banks out in D.C. Brendan Burke as well, helping fuel different charitable efforts. And on my side, what I'm able to do here is basically, if we have a fan who's interested in hearing from me, or, hearing from, say, a friend of mine, Dick Fain, who's the television and radio voice of the Seattle Storm and the WNBA, or my counterpart, Tom Borning, with the Seattle Thunderbirds, a good friend of mine, Joe Fan, who covers the Seahawks on NBC Sports Northwest. If they're looking for anything from, a basic cheer-me-up message to a hello to a happy birthday, I even kind of put a twist on this and said, I will call a mock-up play-by-play of you or your little one scoring a goal, or even just doing basic housework, getting the coffee ready in the morning, setting the table for dinner time, feeding the dogs in the morning. I'll call play-by-play of that. You let me know what you want to hear. And in exchange, all I ask for, and they require us on Cameo to put a price tag on this, is to basically, throw $15 my way on Cameo, and I will take every bit of those proceeds and not make a dime off of it, and I will put that right back into charity.
I think that's a great thing.
It's been able to deliver some great results so far. John Walton's raised over $6,000 to feed a local food bank out in D.C. My efforts here are funneled toward a local hospital, Providence and Everett, where actually the first COVID-19 patient appeared in the United States. So there's certainly a local angle for us to help out with. The bottom line is, during a time like this, if somebody asks me, what did you do during this to make a difference? I thought no greater way than to say, here's what I did, than to use the abilities here given to me and try to help raise some good here for the people of the Puget Sound. So it's certainly my goal to help out in that cause. And, we're on our way, but, every little bit helps. And, the more that we can certainly take on and put a smile on someone's face, I certainly call it a win.
And you can even buy Silvertip facial masks I saw online, which is cool too. Our guest is Mike Benton. We just have a couple of minutes, Mike. From a sports standpoint, you had to be very disappointed the way the season ended, just because you were so close when they had to shut her down. A great year for the Silvertips.
Yeah, it really hurt. And I really couldn't feel any more than the three players who were kind of on their quote-unquote senior year status, if you want to use that analogy, and they're 20 years of age, so they can't play in the WHL anymore. Their careers are now phased out. The three names, Wyatt Wiley, a defenseman, Bryce Kindop, a right winger who was also the Silvertips captain for this last year, and Jay Christensen also, who began the year with Stockton in the American Hockey League because he was on a Calgary Flames amateur tryout contract, but then when he requested to come back, came back to the Everett Silvertips and absolutely lit the league on fire as far as point production from a defenseman. And the way the Silvertips season was going, all three players, by the way, earned NHL contracts, so certainly a soft landing. But for those three players helping lead this team to a potential number one seed in the entire playoffs, And who knows after that? The conclusion of this season certainly stung, and I couldn't feel worse for those three players who all of a sudden had their season shut down, and there would be no finish line for them, no formal goodbye. That hurts my heart to realize that's it for them. Now, of course, the soft landing certainly helps because they all have NHL contracts locked up. Wyatt Wiley now on a 3-year entry-level contract with the Philadelphia Flyers. Bryce Kindop will go to the Anaheim Ducks. He just signed his contract. And Jay Christensen is now a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets. But you'll often hear players, and the college game is certainly on the same level. Players will often say across the board, whether it might be hockey, basketball, football, some of the greatest years I ever spent in my entire life were either in college playing for this certain team at this university, or for a lot of these players playing for so-and-so in the Western Hockey League. And they will say that here for this same team, too. They'll never, ever forget it. On the Silvertips side, they finished 1 point regular season champion, the Portland Winterhawks. Who knows what could have happened from there, but certainly an ending that was all too premature. But for all of us now, we certainly adjust.
All right, Mike Benton, it is a pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to continuing to follow your career. The NHL is in your future, my friend. The voice of the Everett Silvertips on radio, their director of broadcasting. Thanks for joining us. Find Mike Benton on Cameo. You can find his podcast, Voices Up Close, and of course you can visit the club's website as well, the Everett Silvertips, for more info. Thanks, Mike Benton. Thanks, Jared King, my producer. Have a great week. We'll see you next week at the ballpark, at least on the radio. Hey, thanks very much for downloading and subscribing to this podcast. I want to let you know in the very near future, scorecardscribblings.com, we will be making available a hard copy version of the newest edition of the Sports Guy Scorecard Scribblings from an Ordinary Journalist that I think hopefully will be interesting for anyone interested in the sports broadcasting or journalism world, or hopefully just anybody wanting to follow and learn more about what it's like behind the scenes in a career, very humble career like my own. Anyway, Mike Benton, our guest from the Everett Silvertips, his podcast Voices Up Close. He's just getting it going. A couple of great interviews with NHL play-by-play guys are on there right now. You can also find his venture on Cameo. There's also some other really cool stuff on there. I'm not part of that, but check it out. It's a way to get some kind of maybe a fun little happy Mother's Day for somebody if you want to do that and check it out. Thanks to my producer, Jared King. We will see you next time, and make sure to tell your friends about Scorecard Scribblings.